What's going on, guys? So today we are modifying this. This is my 12-inch trenching bucket. This thing's a beast. And this was my custom fabricated micro trenching bucket. This one has a 4-inch width to it. This one has a 12-inch width to it. And yeah, this thing is super cool. And with me today, I got my neighbor. I'm just gonna start calling you the neighbor. The neighbor. He's back here again. He is that super welder. I mean, and super welding is probably a perfectly accurate description because he's the one that made my really cool grating attachment. Check that out, for my 36-inch bucket. And that thing worked flawlessly. It's super tough. Yeah, he made the whole thing out of like 3/8-inch thick plate steel. And yeah, we dug a big hole back here. Don't tell my wife. But this thing is super cool. He's done that, he's done that, he's worked on the tractor, and today we're doing a modification to this 12-inch trenching bucket that is actually very similar to a modification he did to my tractor bucket, if you watch that video. He's got his portable setup over here, and he is an advocate for spending wisely when it comes to welding equipment. This dude's a master welder, yet he doesn't go out and feel like he needs to spend 100 grand on equipment.
No, you don't need it.
Yep, he buys what he needs.
I know some people will swear up and down certain machines and the most expensive equipment they could find, and honestly, you can do the same job with cheaper equipment. I mean, if you have the deep pockets to buy that expensive equipment, it's great equipment. Yeah. But, you know, I'd rather spend my money in other areas.
And is there any true benefit in terms of overall performance?
No, if you know how to weld, you learn to adjust to every machine that you're using. So your machine might be reading a certain number, and then you can say, you know what, it's welding colder than it should, and you would know how to adjust and troubleshoot from there to get your machine running where you need it to run. Yeah,
it's mainly about the operator, right?
About the operator.
We got our trusty can of spray paint that we'll be using in a little while, and we have the project for today. That is welding this 1/2-inch forged hook. This thing's rated at, I think, 8,000 pounds, something like that. And we're gonna weld it to the back of the bucket so I can use my bucket as a crane. And now, part of me was like, you know what, let's weld it to the wider bucket. Since you know, that bucket is the one that's primarily on the excavator, but the reality is you don't want it on that one. You want it really on the lightest bucket that you have, because by putting it on a heavy bucket, you've already taken away some of the capacity you're going to be able to lift simply because of the weight of the bucket. So, you know, I'm almost tempted to put it on the small micro trenching bucket that he built, only because it almost makes sense in terms of putting it on the lightest bucket, because that is by far going to be the lightest bucket. But then part of me says, you know what, let's attach it to this 12-inch bucket, because I don't really know why. It's just kind of my theory that it's best to attach it to the 12-inch bucket, because this is also a bucket that's on the tractor quite a bit. This one is a very purpose-built trenching bucket. This is made for trenching plumbing lines, things like that, and we've used it quite a bit, and you can actually tell, and this thing held up extremely well. Outstanding bucket, and this is the guy that made it. He welded this out of nothing, but I guess steel. Did a great job. This one he's yet to modify, so he's modified my 36-inch bucket, and he built me this bucket, and yeah, I'm thinking this is the one to put it on, simply because 90% of the time one of these two buckets is on the tractor, so it's much more likely this bucket will be on the tractor when I need to use it, and I won't have to go through the process of switching it out. So I actually ordered 2 of these, and both of them got lost in the mail but eventually showed up. If you look at the back of the bucket here, you can see where they've reinforced it right here and right here. And part of me says to weld it right here, and part of me says to weld it right here. And again, I have 2 of these, at least one of the 2 that I've ordered, and I thought about putting one right here and one right here. But then again, the other part of me is like, you know what, maybe just one right here, even though I know this is going to be thinner steel. So I think this is 3/8-inch thick steel, which is plenty, and it's reinforced on both sides right here as well. So if we put it right here, I can't anticipate lifting anything with this bucket using the hook that is going to be heavier than what this would be rated for in terms of before this could fail. So in your opinion, Do you think that welding it right here is perfectly acceptable, or should we put it on these reinforced areas?
No, I would put it that one in the center where you were just showing.
Yeah, and a little higher too, because when I scoop, I run the risk of this actually gouging into whatever I'm scooping into when I curl the bucket. So if I put it up a little higher, say like right here, it still will give me the ability to put my little wedge in place to be able to lock the assembly onto the tractor or onto the excavator. But yeah, I'm thinking right here. Now there's a bit of a curve here. What do you suggest doing? Because that's straight.
Then I would
notch that out.
Depending on how bad the curve is. Let me see. Yeah, so what I'll end up doing is I'll end up taking my grinder and kind of just notching this out very little.
Like a little radius in there. So
little radius in there so it sits closer. You won't have such a big gap on your corners. And then that I'll be able to fill.
Okay.
So that's easy. That's an easy fix.
Very, very cool.
But I just want to know where
you're
wanting it.
If we move over to this bucket right here, this is what I need to avoid, this assembly right here. And really, it matches kind of the profile of the groove that this drops into. So it would probably come out to right about this spot right here. So as long as it drops below that, and we'll be able to squeeze the chain through regardless.
Are you going to want the hook going up or the hook going down?
Up.
Okay. Then I would say
I'd say right there, right in the middle if we can do it. And that'll be the top, right?
That'll be the top right there.
Yeah, I think that'll work.
And since my OCD kicks in, I got to go in the middle. I can't do the whole, we're going to eyeball it. No.
About 10, about 10 inches.
10 3/4. We're going outside to
Actually,
outside.
about 9 inches, right? Oh, outside to outside.
Outside to outside. If you go inside to inside, it's
9 inches.
9, so you're at 4.5. That's your center.
Okay. Now comes the fun grinding part.
So it's going to be about that high for that line here. And this is going to be where I got to grind. Always grind your paint off before you weld.
Oh, yeah. Otherwise, your weld is going to be the paint.
Don't get me wrong. You can burn through it. You know, you can. They make other rods, like 60-10 rods that have more phosphorus in it that'll burn through that. But I'm real big on prepping my weld before I weld it. Mm-hmm. It just comes out cleaner. Yeah, it just...
But you don't take any risk of contamination in your weld then, right?
As hot as it's welding, it's going to burn through the paint. It's going to take it off. But that's just how I've always been. I like to prep my welds.
Yeah, and every master welder, every experienced welder you ever see does that, right? Yeah. So it's
anybody that takes pride in their work.
That's the best way of putting it. Yep.
Because some people will just slap it on there and weld it, and it'll hold perfectly fine. But like I always say, if you're gonna do something, do it right.
Yep. And that's for any of you kids watching this video as well. If you're gonna do something, do it right.
Do it right.
That's I think that's the mantra of every father.
Yep. If you're gonna do it right. Why do it twice? Or why do it half-assed? You know,
or what? Measure twice, cut once.
Measure twice, cut once.
All right, so now we're going to address all the keyboard welders out there. All right, the ones that are going to say, man, that was a sloppy, ugly looking weld. And you know, it's funny, in the middle of him welding, he stops and he goes, the weld's not that ugly, I promise you. So I know what's going on, but take a moment real quick and explain to them what's going on here.
Most people will jump to conclusions and they see the slag, which is there to protect the weld and let the weld, you know, form. The slag might look horrible, but what matters is how the weld looks underneath.
Yep.
And most people see the slag and start criticizing, and oh, that weld's ugly, it's terrible, it's horrible. Knock the slag off.
Yeah, let's take a look at this close up and see how he did. What exactly did you do here? Because this isn't just a simple single bead that you put down. You put 3 layers down.
I put 3. If you notice the part before, it had a natural bevel already built into it.
Yes.
Specifically to weld it out. Now, 1 bead all the way around would have been enough, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
But since it had that big of a bevel, I wanted to add more weld. So I did 1 in the middle that joins the 2. Then I did a 2nd bead on the bottom first. Some people will go the top first. It just depends on the welder.
Yeah, that's this piece, this bead right here.
This bead,
that's
right?
the 2nd bead.
Yeah, that'll be this bead right here. And that one went half into this plate and half into the bead that was originally thrown for the first one.
Got it.
Then the 3rd bead on top is half of this bottom bead and half into this.
Got it. So you've essentially filled the gap. There's no gap
Correct.
here anymore.
There's no
so
gap.
Yeah, if he would have just done 1 bead around, there still would have been kind of an overhang on the front and the back.
Exactly. And then that creates a weak point there in there.
Yeah, and now you've really eliminated any chance that any lateral movement on this thing is going to cause issues as well.
Exactly.
So that is really cool.
Now, what I was saying in the middle of the video, a mistake that some people make is they'll throw that first bead and then they'll throw a bottom one and then they'll throw the top one. The same sequence I just did, but they'll do it all on one side first.
Oh, okay.
So then what that does is that'll pull the material this way and then this will be out of square. So if you noticed, I threw one on this side. Now, most people would probably throw, the smarter people would throw probably partial, go halfway, and then go up the other half. But if you noticed, as soon as I got done doing that side, I came on this side and threw that bead fast to compensate, to pull back, because I want to keep it square.
Well, and the thing's perfectly square. I mean, you lined it up perfectly, and that's really what we're looking for, the end result.
Exactly. So if you keep going on one side, you're going to pull, I promise you, this hook would have been leaning this way. So then after I threw that side, then I continued on this side. I threw that bead. Then I threw the other. I go back and forth until I finish the sequence of welding, just to prevent the material from pulling one way or the other. This will kind of keep it straight.
Well, and while this is cooling, because it's got to cool a bit before I can hit it with some paint, right?
Correct.
Real quick, I want you to describe what you did here to my other bucket. Because this is like tractor gold right here, what he did. This is awesome. So kind of describe the process.
What I wanted to do is I started with the bottom plate first. There's a bottom plate, and I wanted to go with the contours of the teeth. I wanted it, because when this is pushing or pulling, the more material you have hitting the back plate and the front plate, the sturdier it's going to be.
Yeah, less chance that something's going to deform or bend.
Exactly. I don't want nothing to deform. I don't want nothing to bend. I don't want nothing to warp over time. Because then you're not going to want me to build more stuff for you. So I got to build the stuff to last. So I want majority of the teeth hitting these plates. So that's what I did first. I contoured that plate to sit up against the bottom of these teeth. Then I came over the top. Now once I had that angle set, then I tacked and tacked and then braced it.
Yep,
now the good thing about the bracing up here is really this bolt is just so it doesn't slide off. That bolt is not holding a lot of pressure. Your teeth are what's holding or doing all the pressure. All your pressure is down here. Now, and the reason why I kind of went lower was because this plate here is pushing up against this plate. So that's going to stop it from warping this way or that way. Because if it come this way, that plate is stopping it. To go that way, this plate is stopping it.
Yeah, that's almost 3/4 inches total material thickness right there. Yep. So, and
then we filled in the gaps here on the back side, because you don't want dirt and other material, rocks going in there. Kind of helps keep that out.
Well, and in case I hit anything from the side too, it keeps this thing from potentially bending side to side as well.
Because it's going to hit against these areas here.
Yeah.
And
So
also
For the people who left comments saying that it's not going to last very long or it's going to bend, what you're not understanding is this 3/8 inch thick piece of steel really isn't handling the pressure. The teeth are. This is just sitting up against it. The ability for this steel to bend really relies on enough force to be able to push in between the teeth to overcome the strength of the front welded edge and the boxed section in the back, which there's no way I could do anything with this tractor to produce that much force. To kind of give you an idea, I've already used it with the actual thumb closed, and I've hit the thumb and actually closed the thumb with it, and the thumb kind of falls in these little areas, and it didn't bend it at all. Didn't do anything.
No,
it was enough force to press this up.
It's the same concept as when you have a magician that lays down on a bed of nails.
Yep.
You lay down on one, well, it's going to penetrate. You lay down on a bunch of them, what this plate does is spread that
energy.
pressure
Yep.
across the whole thing.
Yep, no, that is awesome. You did a phenomenal, actually everything you've done for me, you've done a phenomenal job. So I can't just point out just one thing. Even the little 4-inch micro trenching bucket over there was phenomenal. But yeah, that's it. Is there anything else we need to do on this one besides hit it with paint?
Yeah, just let it cool a little bit and then we'll hit it with paint. And then for you to try it out and let me know how it works.
I will. I got to find something I need to hoist up first, but that is super awesome, man. Again, very, very pleased. You know, we put the hook upside down. No, I'm kidding with you.
Oh, well, I was about to say, well, let me go home and get the torch.
No, we got it all set up the right way. Well, brother, I really appreciate it. This guy is an Army veteran. Absolutely love his service, support everything he's done, and now he's helping me here and builds barbecue pits, does a lot of charity functions, things like that. There you go.
Mental health.
Absolutely.
Big one.
That is a huge one. Absolutely huge. If you are a veteran and you're suffering from mental health issues, you need to reach out. There's people here to help you, man.
Don't have too much pride. Reach out. I was like that in the beginning. I didn't want to reach out until a VA buddy of mine helped me, and I'm glad I did.
Yeah.
So
yep. Changed
don't
person.
let the pride ruin you. Go get the help. Get better, and stay in the fight.
So just hit it with some spray paint. God, that looks good. Yeah, we're not going to use it today. I'm going to let it cool down and do whatever it needs to do, but man, it turned out really good. He does such great work. Yeah, guys, if you haven't had a chance, please take a moment, subscribe to my channel, leave a comment below, let me know what you think. Talk to you again very soon.